We would rather have reforming who we know are wolves than have Labour who are wolves in sheep's clothing.
I was looking at Andy Burnham yesterday, and I was wondering, is he one of these Fabians? And he's spoken at the Fabian.
He is a Fabian.
Yes, and he's spoken at the Fabian events. And I was looking at the Fabian strategy, which is slow, incremental.
A wolf in sheep's clothing.
Wolf in sheep's clothing. Slow.
They're even eugenicists. You know that?
I didn't know that, but
Bernard Shaw was a eugenicist in the Fabian.
Shaw, looking directly at the camera, said,
I don't want to punish anybody, but there are an extraordinary number of people whom I want to kill. And I think it would be a good thing to make everybody come before a properly appointed board and say every 5 years or every 7 years, just put him there and say, sir or madam, now will you be kind enough to justify your existence? We cannot use the big organization of our society for the purpose of keeping you alive, because your life does not benefit us and it can't be of very much use.
But if I wonder if by design it's just it's been death by 1,000 cuts for our country. You know, the laws under Blair complicating everything, the managerial class. I think it feels strategically what they've done is taken over everything and destroyed and hollowed out the country, but it's given them so much power.
Well, they're all Fabians. In virtually the entire front bench of Fabians. West Streeting, big Fabian. Starmer is a Fabian and a Haldane Society member. You know, they're all, again, it's all Gramscian. It all goes back to this EU construct. You know,
the Fabian Society has about 6,500. That's 1.6% of Labour's membership, supplying 141 of 411 Labour MPs. That's 34%, a third of the parliamentary party, from 1.6 of the membership, more than half the cabinet. Keir Starmer, former executive committee member. Rachel Reeves, former executive committee member. Wes Streeting, executive committee member who stepped down after the election. David Lammy, Angela Rayner, Yvette Cooper, Ed Miliband, Pat McFadden, Bridget Phillipson, Shabana Mahmood. I could keep on going. Starmer was the first person in history to win the Labour leadership while sitting on the Fabian Society's executive committee. He wrote his political vision document, called The Road Ahead, as a Fabian pamphlet. Downloads crashed their website. David Lammy stood at the Fabian conference in January 2024 and thanked them publicly. The support you have given today's Fabians, Keir Starmer, myself, and much of the shadow cabinet. Now, I promised you a stained glass window. Shaw designed it in 1910. It shows Shaw and Webb hammering out the new world on an anvil. Above them, the wolf in sheep's clothing, on a red shield. Below, smaller figures worship a pile of Fabian books. Blair stood in front of a stained glass window featuring a literal wolf in sheep's clothing and said, on the record, a lot of the values that the Fabians and George Bernard Shaw stood for would be very recognisable in today's Labour Party. George Bernard Shaw, the man who advocated lethal chambers, the man who wrote about the Jewish question in 1938, the man who said kill, kill, kill after the Holocaust. Those values.
And to your point, yes. And what they want to do is aggregate power to the state and diminish power of the individual.
Why?
I want to do the complete opposite. I want to disempower the state and I want to re-empower the individual. Then things make sense.
Why do you think they want to do that?
Well, because I think they've got this misguided view. And if you look at most of the people on the Labour front bench, have you seen any of them have ever made any money or employed people or contributed anything? No. And I think one of the biggest issues Britain's got to get over is this ridiculous culture of envy. I mean, I celebrate success, and the Americans celebrate success. And Britain is, if you actually strip it back, the most successful place where the genesis of most good ideas comes from. But the problem is we've got this what I call petty class of gnomes who always look over the garden fence at what everybody else does and has got. And they actually contribute nothing, but they're a bunch of moaning minis who are holding us back. And I'm afraid that is a large part of what Fabianism is all about. I celebrate success, and I think the more successful people we can bring here and hopefully encourage to live here, the more we'll generate wealth, we'll generate happiness, we'll generate employment. Because we've got the best people, we've just got to give them the power to pursue their own interests. So I want to scrap IHT. I want people, if they've made money and paid tax on it, to keep it. I'd rather the money was in family businesses and in family farms, the backbone of Britain. And I'd rather it was in the hands of individuals than I would the Larry Finks of this world, who basically mop up and create this sort of global world from which they profiteer. I don't want that. I want a nation state which is proud of itself.
You're sounding like a green, Rupert.
Sorry?
You're sounding like a green there.
Do not liken me to Zach Polanski. I'm afraid we're going to fall out if you do that. I mean, you can't take him seriously. I gather he's even living in a £2.5 million house and not paying his poll tax or his council tax. So I mean, these people, they're all hypocrites, I promise you.
Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India, was, in his own words, vaguely attracted to the Fabians and socialistic ideas during his years in London. Even Muhammad Ali Jinnah, founder of Pakistan, was described as an avid member of the Fabian Society in the early 1930s, though the evidence suggests he joined instrumentally to gain credibility for a Labour parliamentary candidacy. One small society in London, influencing the governance of India, Singapore, Pakistan. And that's before we get to the part where they wrote the Labour Party's constitution.
Whoa. What you call an icon living? Start a record label, Misfits just did it.
Over 10 seats for the independents in Birmingham. They laughed at us. They did not take us seriously. They did not know the force and the people power that Ahmed Yaqub and Shakil Assar bring with them. You're not just speaking to two people, you're speaking to the whole of Birmingham. Absolutely, when people say to us that we're going to let reforming, we would rather have reforming who we know are wolves than have Labour who are wolves in sheep's clothing.
The wolf in sheep's clothing, which they use as a full heraldic coat of arms, until even they realised the optics were dreadful and quietly dropped it around the turn of the 20th century. And third, the one they use today, a plain red square.
See through the smoke, now you seeing it clear. No lies, no script, just the truth in your ear.